Sukkah, Perek Daled, Mishnah Base. We mentioned in the previous Mishnah that the mitzvah of Arba Minim, sometimes it would be on 6 days of Sukkot and sometimes on 7. This Mishnah clarifies that point. Lulav Shiva Ketzad. How could it be that the lulav, the mitzvah of lulav, could be on 7 days, all 7 days of Sukkot? Says the Mishnah, Yom Tov Rishon Shel Chag. If the first day of Sukkot, Shechal Yos b'Shabbos, if that fell on Shabbos, lulav Shiva, that year there would be a mitzvah of shaking lulav, the Arba Minim, all 7 days of Sukkot. Explains the Bartanura, the first day would be doicha, push aside Shabbos, and the Arba Minim could be taken even on Shabbos if the first day of Sukkot was a Shabbos. Why? Because, as we've mentioned before, the Pasuk, Olekachtem lochem bayom harishon, you should take the Arba Minim on the first day. It doesn't specify where. And from that we learn that everywhere there's a mitzvah min haTorah of shaking the Arba Minim on the very first day of Sukkot. As there is a mitzvah min haTorah to shake lulav everywhere on the first day of Sukkot, and therefore the Chachomim didn't want to push aside that mitzvah, and therefore on the first day of Sukkot they would shake the lulav even on Shabbos. And of course the rest of the days of Sukkot would not be Shabbos, there would be no problem, and therefore that year the shaking of the lulav would be all 7 days. Continues the Mishnah, U'sha'ah kol hayomim shisha. Explains the Bartanura, if the first day of Sukkot fell on another day of the week, therefore Shabbos that year would be on Chol HaMoed. Therefore, Chachomim said one should not shake lulav on Shabbos in that year, and therefore that remains 6 days when there was a mitzvah to shake lulav. Asks the Bartanura, even though in the Beis HaMikdash, by the Beis HaMikdash, all 7 days there is a mitzvah min haTorah to shake lulav. So therefore, at the Beis HaMikdash, whichever day of Yom Tov was Shabbos, it shouldn't make any difference, because there is always a mitzvah min haTorah to shake lulav. And therefore they should be allowed to take it on Shabbos, whichever of the days of Sukkot was Shabbos. Answers the Bartanura, seeing as other than the first day, it's only a mitzvah min haTorah at the Beis HaMikdash and not outside the Beis HaMikdash area, therefore the Chachomim stipulated that on those days, if it's Shabbos, one cannot shake lulav even at the Beis HaMikdash area. Only on the first day, if that is Shabbos, then the lulav can be taken. Continues the Bartanura, that ruling shouldn't change today. Today, on the first day of Sukkot, if it fell on Shabbos, as it's min haTorah everywhere, why can we not shake lulav? Answers the Bartanura, initially, after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, they were still Makadish, the Levana, the moon, by Re'iyah, sight. They saw the new moon, they were Makadish, the month, and they sent out messengers to tell everyone when Rosh Chodesh was. But as we know, the messengers couldn't tell everybody, depending on how much time they had. They couldn't reach everywhere, and therefore we have in Chutz La'aretz 2 days Yom Tov. Now initially, those 2 days of Yom Tov on that first day, we weren't certain whether that day actually was Yom Tov, because the messengers hadn't reached all areas. And in Chutz La'aretz, they didn't know whether that day actually was the first day of Yom Tov. And therefore, in Chutz La'aretz, on the first day of Yom Tov, if it was a Shabbos, that day may actually not have been Yom Tov. Maybe Yom Tov was the following day. They were keeping 2 days because of a suffix. As it was a doubt, and they weren't certain whether that first day, Shabbos, was in fact the first day, therefore they wouldn't be allowed to take the lulav. And therefore, as so many people were living in Chutz La'aretz after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, they didn't want to have 2 different rules taking place. In Eretz Yisrael, where people knew that that was the first day of Sukkot, people were shaking the lulav on Shabbos. And in Chutz La'aretz, they wouldn't be doing that. Therefore, they stipulated that no one can shake the lulav on Shabbos, even on the first day of Yom Tov. And that ruling applies today as well. Even though nowadays we have a Kaddish, we have a calendar, everyone knows when actually is the first day of Yom Tov. It's true in Chutz La'aretz we keep 2 days, but we know the first day is really the first day of Yom Tov. Nevertheless, the ruling continued as it did previously, which means that no one shakes the lulav on the first day of Sukkot if it falls on Shabbos. There is, however, one final point, and that is, what was the Gezerah Midrabanon not to shake the lulav on Shabbos? There's no Aveira shaking a lulav. What malacha is there? There is no malacha shaking a lulav. Answers about Tanura, the Gemara says there was a gezerah. They made a decree. Perhaps someone will forget it's Shabbos, and they will take their lulav to ask a boki, a specialist, a rov, a chacham, a halacha, about shaking the na'anuim, about the bracha. A person may forget and carry Reshus HaRabim, Daled Amos in Reshus HaRabim, which is of course Osa on Shabbos. And therefore, to avoid that possibility, the Chachomim said that one cannot shake a lulav on Shabbos. That concludes the meeting.